Hello, welcome to the panel. We're here without Justin this week, so I don't have the polished intro that he always says. But I'm Brian Castle. I'm the founder of Builder Methods.
I'm Jordan Gall, the founder at HeyRosie.com, and we have our friend and recurring guest now, Henry Poydar. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm Henry Poydar, founder of Steady at runsteady.com, and I guess I took away some of the hair quotient from the panel this week.
Okay.
Justin's got a full head.
Justin's the one. His is very nice. Yeah. He's always been very stylish. That's right.
Yeah, he's got like the weekly haircut going, and
he dresses nicely. He dresses nicely. I'm always like, wow, imagine dressing nicely. I used to enjoy dressing nicely, and it's impossible to justify at home. It's impossible.
I'm just way too comfortable in the sweats, or now every other day it's either like gym shorts or sweatpants, depending on the weather.
You know what's really inspired me is your friends and neighbors. John Hamm looks so good in a blazer. I'm like, I gotta find more excuses to wear blazers.
I know. I'm speaking at a conference in June, and then another one in September, and I'm like, I gotta go shopping to get some like real clothes. Like I gotta be like, out in the world again. It's crazy.
I mean we can talk about this a little bit, but I am the critics for my outfits happen to be my children, right? So
always.
Yeah.
Tina Fey had a thing where she talked about, it was on some talk show or something, where she talked about how like when you've got a teenager, like it kind of feels like you're dating them, you're trying to like impress them, but not show that you really care and you're interested in all of that. And so,
yes, my wife sent me that clip because she has 3 daughters. Right. So she has that feeling of like, we're just going to have dinner, but like, oh, I'm sure you have plans.
Yeah, right.
As like a normal interaction. Cool. Right. We're going to do everything for you, but like you don't have to actually, take part.
Yeah, that's extended into my outfits. I'm trying to not. I got a critique the other day that my jeans were too tight. It's like, that's old school.
Well, this is the first time they're encountering wide leg pants as a trend, so they think they invented
that's like a new trend. I'm like, yes. The '90s, we're back. Here we go.
It's kind of not a new trend. It's like a couple of years. We're behind, guys.
Yeah, I don't know if it helps our case that we're so old that's actually coming back from when we were teenagers. Yeah. That's how long the cycle has been.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I never got into the tight skinny jeans. I'm just like I'm going to stick with the '90s until they come back.
I did that for a while. I always find myself continuously embarrassed of the previous stage of fashion. I'm like, oh, I like the way these look. What was I thinking? Previously. Yeah. And then it's just that on repeat forever.
All right. So today, should we talk about business or AI or kids? Maybe all of it.
I think we're going to get to all of it.
Yeah, it's all interrelated. So,
yeah, I mean, why don't we start out with some updates, business side?
Henry, what's new? Last time you were on the pod, you talked a lot about really figuring out how to dial in the narrative around your business and how that extends into the sales process and how that looks on the inside of your customers' organizations. Where has that gone? How has that been turned into marketing material and a sales process and product updates and all that?
Yeah, lots going on there. So, Steady is a coordination platform for teams and for organizations and companies. And what we've realized from interacting with our customers, we have, of course, tons of AI features within Steady. LLMs are really good at pattern matching. Coordination is about pattern matching and using that to provide guidance and assess risk and things like that. And so that's been obviously been great for our product. But what we are wrestling with is how our customers are using AI. And I think what we've realized that I think Brian, you might have talked about this a little bit. There's kind of like 2 kinds of agents out there. There's what I'll call like the single player agent and the multiplayer agent. Single player, in my mind, is the personal assistant, like the agent that works for a person. And it's kind of like a one-to-many relationship, right? Like right now, I've got 7 Claude and Codex terminal tabs open. Those are my agents. They're doing things. They're working for me. And so it's single player mode.
Okay.
But I think what we're starting to see and what we start to see our customers is the multiplayer mode, where you have an agent that's not working for a particular person. It's working for a team or it's working for a company. So something like Charlie or Devin, or some of the semi-autonomous agents that are doing like infrastructure stuff and things like that. And those deployments at bigger companies are failing really terribly, right? Because they haven't solved the coordination problem. Like, and how do you keep these things aligned and in sync? And it's not a performance problem with the tech. It's an alignment problem. And so, okay, well, we have a coordination platform. What can we do there? And so we've been thinking really hard about what it looks like to have an agent in the same coordination loop as humans. And that's sort of where we see our business headed is around that. So to get there, we've done a whole bunch of things on the products to sort of build up to that. We've released an MCP server. We just yesterday released another version of our API. We're standing up a CLI. So all the things where you can use our product, I'll say headlessly as a customer. So a lot of our customers today just use our product through Claude and Claude Code and Cowork and things like that, which I find really interesting.
Yeah.
But we envision a day where it's going to be just agents autonomously acting with our product too, and participating in those same coordination loops. And so
that's super interesting.
We have an open source method that Steady is based on called continuous coordination. And Adam, our head of product, and I have been working behind the scenes to kind of figure out how that accommodates agents. And I'm doing a couple things around that. One is we changed we updated the continuous coordination website. We have a schema, an open source schema we published. We have an open source continuous coordination server that you can run in Docker that we've published. And I'm doing a talk, which I talked about on the last panel, about this whole concept of humans and agents teams. And I'm giving the talk with a couple of our customers at some lunch and learns. But the idea is to have this kind of like canned thought leadership piece that I can use as a narrative for where we're headed with Steady as a business, but also just my perspective and my team's perspective on where agents are headed.
That's super. I actually want to see your talk on that, especially because you, especially you, Henry, both of you have a lot more experience with how actual human teams need to coordinate around AI. In my case, I'm mostly solo. I do work with a few people, but it's not as collaborative with AI with the team. But on the continuous coordination model, I've been really leaning into this same model for all the things that I'm building these days. So yeah. These days everything I'm building are like internal tools to help me run builder methods.
Yeah.
And they're all following this same model now where I'm building a tool and an agent with a skill and myself. It's this triangle. Yeah, yes. I did a video on it a couple weeks ago. I called it like the night shift model to try to brand it a little bit. But basically it's like yes, I do like the direct, like in Claude or in Claude Code, like, chatting and asking it to do stuff and help me. So that's more like direct collaboration. But most of the operations happen in the background, like background tasks that happen, like agents that have jobs, right? So the idea is like agents have a skill that they follow and run on a recurring basis, maybe a nightly basis, maybe an hourly basis. But every time they run, they are checking in, and then they are interacting with my app, which has like API endpoints, right? So the agent like pulls like, all right, what's the latest batch of content? What do I need to do on it? Write some drafts, write these revisions. Okay, I'm going to write these revisions and write some comments. And then I check in later in the day. Say, all right, these are the drafts. I'm going to review them. I approve. I reject. I leave a comment. And then the next time the agent runs, it picks up those comments and then it pushes the ball even further. So it's like these like little touch points throughout the day, and where we're sort of like leaving each other notes, in whatever interface it is. The interface might be a custom app that I've spin up, or it just might be a markdown file that we both write to and read, every time it runs. And I just really like that model. And so it's a lot of like custom apps that don't have any AI built into them. They just have an API.
Right.
And then and then all the smart, creative knowledge stuff gets baked into a skill that I give to whatever agent is running it.
Does that sound familiar, Henry? My brain is stretching to wrap around the abstract concepts that we're talking about. It would be very helpful to me, and maybe to other people listening, if you give an example of like a piece of work or project. So, Brian, you started to get into that where maybe you're writing a piece of content or YouTube. Henry, like, are these the concepts that Brian's talking about in terms of coordination? It's not real time. It's like synced. It's once a day or it's recurring. Are these the type of issues that you're encountering? Like, what's an example of a project, and what's so difficult about this coordination issue?
Yeah. Well, I think it comes back to a lot of the problems that human teams have. And when you think about all the things you're talking about, Brian, you're basically talking about like, how do you have the human in the loop, right? And you have a way that you're doing it. Continuous coordination is, by the way, another way of having the human in the loop. It's a structured way. But what it comes down to is this balance of accountability and autonomy in service of confidence and trust. So if the three of us are working on a team, how do we build up trust and confidence for us to truly work autonomously on our jobs and trust that the other person is doing they're contributing in some kind of way, right?
Is this work mostly technical in nature, and maybe that's why I have trouble connecting the abstract? Or is this like the three of us are on a team and we're working to push out a marketing campaign?
Well, let's take that example.
Okay. Right. So we have a new feature is coming out of the company and we want to announce it. We need to coordinate with the product team, with the engineering team to make sure we understand the features properly. We need to work with design to make sure that we're going to show it off properly. We're the marketing team, so we're thinking about how we communicate it, how we highlight it, who we send it out to. Is it all one announcement? Who's doing the video? Right. So like complicated but regular stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and Brian, jump in wherever. But so the three of us are on a team. We've got a marketing campaign. So there's kind of like a big picture loop of coordination that we're moving towards, right? This goal of this launch of whatever we're marketing.
Yeah.
And then day to day, we need to work together on things. And so we need to trust one another. So there's a big picture loop of the big thing we're working on that other teams around us care about too, right? They have dependencies on us. And then there's our day-to-day work. And typically that is solved today, and forget the agents for a sec. Let's just say it's us three. Typically we would solve it every day by syncing up somehow.
Yeah, now, Slack and meetings.
Now, that's terribly inefficient. So there's a structured way to do it that has been proven over the years, and that's to do what's called a stand-up meeting, right? So we, on a regular basis, on a weekly cadence or on a daily cadence, the three of us would get in a room or on a Zoom call, and we go around. And the key thing that we're going to do in that call is we're not just going to say what we did, we're going to say what we're going to do.
It's like trust building along the way. Like, yes, the video that I'm responsible for is progressing properly. I have the script. I did what I said I was going to do. Now I'm going to talk about what I'm going to do next. And
that's
then you
right.
do the same.
And it builds and builds and builds, because the next day we're going to, Jordan, yesterday you said you were going to do this, and then you're going to close that loop. You're going to say, I actually got it done, or I hit this blocker, or whatever. I need Brian's help for X. Mm-hmm. And so over time, the three of us, because we're constantly matching intentions and accomplishments, we build up trust with each other. And when you build up trust, a couple things happen. One is we all get a little bit more bought in on what everybody else is doing. Two, we understand each other's contributions, so capacity goes up. Like our output will go up in theory. I mean, this is what the agile methodology is all about. And then continuous learning, and then effectiveness overall and impact also goes up because of these compounding attributes of trust that are going up along with capacity. So that's like the human way of coordinating, right? We're staying in the loop.
Yeah. It may not be efficient, but it works. And I guess that's the problem that you always have to contend with. The current way does work. So we're trying to push things to make it better. You don't agree, Henry? Do you feel like people feel like it doesn't work?
I think what we're doing is we're talking about what works with humans right now, right? Mm-hmm. And I think maybe you're saying like, well, does it work? And then, we'll talk about if we can apply it to agents. But
well, I'm actually curious to know what you to think of this, because I don't know how this plays out on real teams, and I think I struggle with like. I think a lot of teams are really struggling with this too, but I struggle with like, how do I explain this or teach this in some way, right? And this question of like, a lot of teams know how to build and deploy products and services the old way, and we have actual team members in these roles. How do we? What do we need to change? What do we need to rethink? What do we need to reorganize in our teams and organizations now that AI is in the mix, right? And like, because my question with that, I don't have a solid answer for this, to be honest. Because if I think, the one trend seems to be the blending and blurring of skill sets and roles, right? Even within my own solo work, like it used to be that like I would do some design work, and then I would do some front end work, and then I would do some back end work, and then I would do some marketing work, and like, even if it's just me or a few different people, those are separate silos, separate departments. In many teams, they have separate people doing those specialized skills. And even if you keep the same people in those same seats, in those same roles, and you give each of them an AI agent to work with, yes, they can get a little bit better at their design work and their writing work and their coding work individually. But also what I'm finding is that it's very inefficient to keep these separate. Like, it's much more efficient for me to build something and do the design and the front end and the back end together in one session with AI.
Right.
And the actual optimal workflow, the sequence of things is changing. It's all blending together. So if you have a designer on the team, or if you have a product manager on the team who's been around for years and experienced, right, and you've got a back end and technical lead, how do you coordinate? How do you decide, like, we need to take this feature and ship it? Who's going to do what? We know we want to use AI. Like, because if it's like a single person, they could probably ship that in a few days or a few hours, maybe. If it's a team, where do the meetings happen? Where do the stops and starts happen? Who's working with what agent at which computer? Like, how is this all working, you know?
Well, I think to a large extent, this blending of roles thing kind of already got solved in sort of these in the, I'll loosely call it the agile world, right? Like, the original agile stuff was about developers on a team who absolutely had totally overlapping roles, right? They happen to be in a single domain, like, you know, coding or a software product, but all those roles were overlapping, and so that they needed this coordination on who's doing what and why. And I think that need doesn't go away as us as humans start to use the tech and change the way what our individual roles are on teams.
My one question, like, does it mean more like pair programming, like together, like a designer and a back end developer, literally pair programming and interacting with Claude Code at the same time, so that the back end architect can steer Claude to have the back end worked out, while the front end saying, like, let's smooth out that UI at the same time? Or
I think it could be. I think it could be that. I think all of those tools are available. What I think my point is that we've been here before. Right? It's not, you know, the roles are changing, the designations on the team are changing, and, you know, a good team is going to be flexible and accommodate that. The way good teams do that is they have some mechanism of continuously tracking intentions and accomplishments and retrospecting on those to get better. It's like, okay, you know, in a traditional agile team, you might have a retrospective after 2 weeks, and I might look at you, Brian, and say, like, you know, Brian, your capabilities, because you're using this other agent here in the background, have totally changed. Like, on the next cycle of our work, on our next marketing campaign or our next sprint or whatever, we shouldn't do those things that you were doing before that assume that you only had this narrow role because your role is much bigger. We should actually assume this, you could take on this bit of work in service of this other goal. Does that make sense?
it's like the foundation of like how people work together and what people try to accomplish. A lot of those stay the same, and then inside of it, a lot of big changes being forced into these organizations, single person companies. It's kind of a very interesting, complicated problem, but you kind of know what the issues are and what the concepts are. Well, so it's like everything got Etch a Sketch got like restarted, but then you almost have to draw the picture in a similar way. Right? At the end of the day, you still have people trying to accomplish things.
Yes, but again, I think the paradigm we're talking about still is single player mode with the agents. I think it gets like, and you're starting to get to this, Brian. I think it's getting more complicated when the personal agents, when you and I are sharing a Claude Code session or something like that, or there is some autonomous agent that's going through and assigning us PRs, or doing some market research and assuming something that we need to change about a marketing campaign or something like that. That's where I think that's the unsolved space. I mean, I have a theory on how you solve it, but I think that's where it's going to start to get complicated. I think the changing of teams and how they're structured, I think we've done that as humans before. I think we're going to do that. We've leveraged tech in different ways before. I think we're going to do that some more. So I think there's a path there I can see.
It's almost like the question of like how many cooks in the kitchen for each individual project,
yes.
right? Like the old world is like, okay, big new feature. Let's put a high number of heads on this project to work together in meetings and stand-ups, and okay, today I'm gonna work on this front end piece and then sync up with you. We're gonna merge it all together and work together on this. But then maybe, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, maybe there is actually more individual ownership of big projects within a team. So okay, hey, we've got a big project we want to ship in this business. Instead of assigning 5+ people to that, let's just assign one person to go off for a couple of days with 5 agents, and then they come back to the table and say, like, all right, we've got that, and then like the marketing person did the same thing over there, and then maybe that's the way you sync up. I don't know. Like,
yeah, I think it's true. I mean, what you're saying is the shape of the process. I mean, the shape of the team will change, but not necessarily the shape of the process.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I do think, however, though, when you put an agent into a seat like this and give them, as in your parlance, a job, how does that work? Right? Because that's different than Henry having 10 Claude Code terminals open and parallel multitasking and handling a whole project on his own. Like, I think that's just the scope of my work changed and the shape of the team I'm on changed. But it's a paradigm shift to actually have an agent owning a job on it.
And I've always thought of it as two things that I'm always doing simultaneously, right? There is always a bunch of work. It's literally the difference between what is my job in the business and what are we trying to scale, right? Like the background jobs that are done. Traditionally, I would just grow the actual human team to try to scale these jobs.
Right.
In this world, we're scaling with agents. In like a very similar way. Like literally, I'm building out builder methods right now. It's me plus one video editor, and honestly, his role is questionable at this point because agents are coming for that too.
Yeah.
Like
TikTok,
and like everything else, I'm literally building out a team of strategists and writers and creatives and editors and me, and like those are all agents.
Is it analogous to like individual contributors and managers? And you're scaling out the number of individual contributors is the easy part to scale up, but the management layer and the strategy layer, is that the more complicated piece?
A lot of the manager roles are just melt away, right? Like you just don't need managers. I'm the manager because the management becomes automated through programming it into skills and agentic systems, right? I feel like managers are for managing people, right?
Yes, plus. Not purely for, moving people around and keeping them on the same page, but there's more to that.
Well, I think, another lens here is we might be talking about the problem is not the shape of teams, or even the shape of roles. It's how you scale the coordination layer as the execution layer gets easier or the shape of teams changes. And how do you do that?
Where's the leverage in this? Where's like the arbitrage? Is it shrinking down the size of companies? Is it building up companies from like transforming existing companies? Sounds very difficult. Henry, I think that's kind of the opportunity you're going after, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the question of, well, what happens when the company organization is native to this approach? What does that look like, right? A company that gets started 3 years from today has a very different set of problems than a company that started 10 years ago and is moving in this direction.
I just can't help but think that it's a shrinking overall of number of people.
Isn't it also it sounds like an explosion of productivity?
Oh yeah, but that's what I mean. It's like
right,
explosion of productivity, reduction of headcount.
I guess my question is, are those necessarily linked? The car and horse analogy, same thing.
There's the car and horse. There's like cyborgs versus robots.
Yeah,
right?
internet, no internet. Huge productivity gains. Did not really result in like mass unemployment, and it just changed things.
Yeah, and I think yes, I just think there's new opportunities and old ones fall away, just like the same with any tech. I think the debate is whether this is different than any other tech. Mm-hmm. Meaning, and the people who want you to buy tokens are saying absolutely this is different. Sure. The machines are going to take over the world, and it is magic. It is revolutionary.
Right. It does have the ring of truth because we're experiencing it.
I want to do what Brian's doing.
Yes.
I want to replace all this with
it is
my OpenClaw instance, but
it is really interesting. Because they're. Yeah, is it different from other tech, right? Like in the years just before AI came along, there seemed to be like an explosion, at least within software, of like automation tools, right? Like workflow automation tooling, no code, the Zapiers of the world, like that stuff really kind of took off in the couple of years before AI came along. There is a separation between, and this gets back to like the architecture of how we build these systems now. There's deterministic stuff, and there's like creative thinking, strategic work, right? And anything that is deterministic, we can build into software, and we can spin that up much faster because we could use Claude Code. Right. But now there is a new element where we used to have to rely on people with creative, strategic experience and skills to be able to do the non-deterministic work. But like, yes, there's I think there still is, and there always will be, especially higher level roles for humans to fill, to be owners and deciders and strategists and architects. But a lot of the creative work now can be programmed into an agent. Like the LLMs are good enough to actually be writers.
But I'd argue that wasn't necessarily creative in the first place. It just wasn't automated. Like I do think that there's going to be more of the non-deterministic opportunities because so much of the execution layer is getting automated.
Yeah.
I just think, there's just going to be more demand for generalist thinkers, more demand for creative problem solvers. That's why the last time we talked on the podcast, I think like engineers or people who get engineering degrees are in a good spot, because engineering is just like, that degree for me anyway was, I forget all the syntax. It was about learning how to solve problems in new and novel ways. And I think that's the skill. But I think the jury's out on whether there's like the head count for that skill is less. My argument is that I don't think so. I just think I think everything shifts versus.
What makes me comfortable is that the role of the entrepreneur sounds a lot like what we're talking about, but that is the inner workings in service to the actual goal, which is identifying problems and desires and meeting them. And that doesn't go away. That's just forever, and it's great, and it's endless and creative and additive. And then
I think
in many ways what we're talking about is like you can accomplish what you want to accomplish. meaning you can get out into the market and into the world the things you want out there much more easily, quickly, efficiently.
I think it's hard to not notice just looking at the overall sentiment toward AI, at least within our industry. And to be super simplistic about it, it's like the entrepreneurial thinkers are extremely excited about the opportunity that this brings in, and the less I don't know, like if you just don't think the way that a founder or an entrepreneur thinks, you tend to lean more like a little threatened or a little unsure, a little nervous about all of this. But like that can include people who are not actually business owners or founders. Like there are very entrepreneurial contributors.
Yeah.
With like people like product thinkers. Like I mean, for me, like I've always been like a designer, developer, builder, but it was always motivated by like so that I can deliver products that solve problems for customers, so that I can build a business, right? Like. Like the people who love the poetry of writing programming syntax, like I don't know what to tell you, but that's going away, you know.
It'll be, you'll go to the track, right? And you'll take your horse to the track, and that's where that will happen.
Yeah, I heard a great saying yesterday. I'm going to really try to get this right. LLMs are based on data, and data is historical,
right?
And creativity is about the future,
right?
Which helped clarify for me, like that's, I think it's a fundamental truth, right? I want to believe that it is. Yes, predictive data, sure, one thing, but there's always, wherever we're sitting on top of it, however big the pyramid of knowledge is that we're sitting on top of, is always up ahead. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I guess I don't know if the three of us have much pessimism in our DNA. So there's more excitement and intellectual challenge than there is pessimism and fear.
Well, yeah, but I think it's a salient point. Like these LLMs you're going to get the average. It's a probability machine that produces the average, right? At any given time. And I brought this up in the last time I was on the panel. I'm still fascinated by this band from Montreal.
Okay.
Angers de Poitrine.
I rewatched it yesterday. I don't like it. That's my honest opinion. But as I'm watching, I'm like, oh, this is like a modern art exhibit that I maybe don't like, but I'm like, I can go further into than that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing that sticks with me about it is that I read this. This is not my thoughts. I read this from somewhere. But when photography came along, in the late half of the 1800s, the artist community adjusted, right? Like there was whole new movements that were created because photography was here and it could recreate imagery. And even that became an art unto itself, right? So this tech came, in theory, automated a thing that humans were doing, right? And then it got it spawned all this creativity and this non-deterministic thinking about these new art movements. And then with Angie Poitrine, I'm not pronouncing my French is terrible. But what they did is because music has been automated too. Like you and I can go I think probably from a prompt, like spin up a song and put it on Spotify, right?
Yeah.
So what do? They just okay, well, we're just going to do something totally new. We're doing microtones. We're going to incorporate this weird showmanship thing. It's not going to look like a band does. The performance isn't going to feel like anything you've ever seen. And yeah, you might not like it, but this is the kind of
maybe I don't like the
technology
music.
Has spawned this awesome.
But that's not really the point in the same way.
What's that?
I was saying maybe I don't love the music itself, but that is not the main point.
Right.
The main point is you've never seen this. It can't be recreated. It's new in a way that you can't stop.
Yeah, it's what's the business version of this?
Right. It discards rules. It says F you to whatever guidelines.
Right.
Yeah. Just to go on a tangent about creativity and music, this is one of those things, and I would say for art in general, this is one of those things where I just don't really agree with at least I don't see it all the musicians feel threatened. All the artists feel threatened with AI, and if you make your living that way, especially if you're struggling, like to get your music onto commercials and TV and stuff like that, like it's probably super hard to compete with like AI generated music. But as a listener and as a creator of music, I'm not interested in AI generated music, and even the idea of like, I don't really seek out. I personally don't seek out music because it's completely original and new and never heard before. I tend to gravitate toward songs that are it's just a damn good song. Like it's using patterns that have been around for decades, but they just put it together, and I feel this person. They've got a story behind it. They've got an experience. Like, of course you could use AI to generate something like that, but like, it's human. Like that's what it is, and I think that's always going to be around, and there's always going to be a need to create it, a need to seek it out. But I mean, why don't we?
Tough transition for us. It's tough. You're about to put me on the spot on like how I'm doing, like dealing with churn. It's not nearly the same.
That's exactly the segue I was going for. Like, why don't we bring this back down to earth?
Anyway, thanks for the update, Henry.
Yeah. I know, right? Yeah.
Jordan, what's going on at Rosie?
Let's see. So we've got a bunch of the marketing stuff we talked about underway. We have a team of creators that are about to post completely organic content about Rosie starting on Monday. We have the Meta partnership ads thing underway. So I'm like filling out those levels in the funnel that we talked about. A lot of what I'm focusing on is I can describe it as like the corporate level. So it feels like the team is in a good place. Everyone knows what they need to do. We kind of have the roadmap on what's coming out over the next like 4 to 6 weeks, and I'm very happy about it. And that gives me an opportunity to look away from the day-to-day and look a bit more at the corporate level. So I'm doing things like establishing access to debt in case we want it. I am talking to our investors and kind of giving an update on where we are and figuring out where they are and seeing what that part of my reality looks like. What are VCs feeling? What are they thinking? Where's my lead investor at in their mood? What are the other major investors thinking? I send these updates, and they're good. So I've sent like 18 months straight of good updates, and I don't want to ignore the corporate and deal making part of the business. And I guess I feel confident enough in the day-to-day and the growth that I can turn my attention away from that a little bit, pick my head up off the keyboard, as I like to say, and go out and explore what's going on in the larger market, talk to some big strategic partners, get their temperature check. So that's what it feels like the last week or so has been for me. Got enough rolling on the day-to-day that I felt comfortable enough looking at the other level of the business. The money, the market, the deals, the investments, the partnerships, the strategic acquirers, like that whole universe. So that's where a lot of my head has been.
What has anything been like surprising to you that you learned over this little period?
It does seem to me that being a VC right now is really challenging. In multiple ways, but maybe the defining issue for them is that the number of big winners is both shrinking, and the actual numbers of the winners are so astronomical that even though we all know and talk about VC being like a power law industry, it is even more extreme now.
Right.
And what that leads into is, well, does your firm have a few winners? Like real winners? Gigantic mega winners? If yes, you could probably raise your next fund. If not, you're going to have a lot of trouble raising your next fund. And so a lot of their universe is based around that. And if I connect that into our business, we have a good business going. We are not a mega winner. And so getting to the very honest conversation with my investors feels critical. And that reminds me a bit of what you've talked about in the past, Henry, where, we have this group and we coordinate together, myself and a few of our investors. And because we've built up trust over the past 5 years, we can kind of get to a very honest part of the conversation and work with each other that way.
I feel like even just a couple, like 1 or 2, 3 years ago, there were like the AI rappers. That was like sort of like the big hot, like, that's where you're starting to find the winners. But like, yeah, now lately in 2026, I'm actually struggling to see where are the, and I'm always especially focused on like the indie bootstrapped crowd, but across the board, like where are the pockets of opportunity from an investor standpoint, from a startup entrepreneur standpoint? It's hard. Like I just have trouble seeing like these types of categories of SaaS or markets. Like where is it?
It seems to be in the lower levels of the industry. The foundation models, the observability models, the infrastructure providers, the specialized models, the energy industry around it, the data center industry around it, the components of how the guts actually operate. A lot of the opportunity seems to be focused on that.
Yeah. Which seems to be like a very, very limited pool, or that pool is already full. Like,
yes, it's like who has access to very large amounts of capital, and who can attract the teams that can accomplish the actual tasks of building data centers and going through the political process of getting them approved. And so it feels like those are gigantic opportunities.
I think the thing is that's really hard for the three of us is we have like this indie kind of entrepreneur mindset. It's a rational thing, like build a business, provide something of value, profit. I mean, the traditional VC model was, do that, build a great leadership team, and then consolidate with other people doing that, and then But from me looking on the outside, and I look at some of the things that are attracting a lot of money, and then their business model and things like that. Like a great example to me is granola.
Okay.
I use granola a lot. It does this one thing, this one job really, really well.
The Zoom recorder transcribe? Yep.
Yeah. And somebody should have owned that a long time ago, right? Like Zoom should have owned that in COVID, and they didn't. They screwed it up. So it left the door open, and then it was filled by like the Fireflies and the Read.ai's of the world, who would do this thing like join a call, right? And that was sort of like, and so then the granolas of the world come along, but there's nothing defensible about their model.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
I mean, Zoom basically has the feature, don't they?
Yeah, now Zoom has the feature. Like, there's nothing and they try and upsell me this like team stuff. I'm like, I don't care, and so, but they got this monstrous, enormous valuation. Like, there's a lot of talk and a lot of buzz. I don't know. That's it. It throws a wrench in the works for
it's a different challenge
in my mind.
It's a different challenge. It's a different business, and it's impossible not to compare yourselves. Yeah. But you have to realize it is just a different thing entirely. It's like, it looks like a tech company, and it is a tech company, but it may as well be a restaurant. It's a different business model. It's trying to do a different thing.
Yeah, I think
from like a steakhouse, a local steakhouse, to a franchise. Like, they're both restaurants, but they're doing completely different things. They need a different capital structure. They need different investors. They need profit in a different way. So I hear you. The problem is that everything gets lumped in, or at least over the last few years, it felt like it has been lumped in. And you go out and raise money from investors, and then everyone gets into the same problem of, okay, even when we have what looks like a great company that produces amazing growth and revenue, we haven't gotten to the finish line. And now we have to figure out our way to the finish line. And just because you got $1 billion valuation says nothing about whether or not you can get to the finish line.
It's almost like we've gone back to the Silicon Valley episode where Mark Cuban character comes in and says, revenue. Don't talk about revenue.
Yeah, no, you don't want revenue. Then people could base your valuation on real numbers. You don't want any part of that.
Erase that part of the whiteboard. I do think it is hard. And like, seeds have moved to Series A. Like it's just, it's the dynamic is.
Yeah.
But it's hard to be a VC, but it's really hard to have a solid business.
Well, you need money.
Definitely.
That's the hard part.
I know.
The hard part is it's really, really hard to get ahead on profit and make enough money so that you can fund the company without any external money at all. It's just a really, really hard thing. We call it bootstrapping, and we know how hard it is.
I have all sorts of challenges and stresses that I deal with every day, all the time, but I still come back. Like, this is why I never really left the indie bootstrapped entrepreneur path, and it's why I'm more comfortable than ever in it now. Like the more I do, the only opportunity that I could possibly figure out, at least just speaking for myself, is the smaller I can keep my business and my operation, the higher the upside without needing to be huge, right? Or I should say, like, how can I make a life-changing business that doesn't have to check all the boxes that a typical funded business would need to check for it to still be life-changing for me? And I still think that there are opportunities at that level. Still insanely hard to make it work and stay afloat and stay alive, but it's not like what I mean. Honestly, like what I'm building with. We all see opportunity. We're all doing our businesses because we see opportunity there in whatever lane that we're in. But like, it's still tough though.
Still tough.
It's really tough. That's why I love that Tiny Seed exists, because at least there's something out there that addresses this weird gap of, like, it would make it a lot easier, 100 or 200K. That would make it a lot easier than just going off of your own savings or putting in 25 grand and saying, all right, I got to make this work one way or another.
I think it's also easy to like forget that we are still very much in our own bubbles.
Yeah, of course.
And there's a huge wide world out there of small businesses and individuals who literally have just picked up Claude for the first time, like last week.
Yeah.
Yeah. The opportunity to build a business, pick up customers, make more revenue than expenses is not the easiest way to do it. It is a really, really, really hard way to do it. Like, it's almost certainly easier to find a company doing $10 million in revenue and acquire it and cut the expenses, knowing what we know. It's almost certainly easier, but that's private equity. That's not entrepreneurship in the same way.
Right.
It is entrepreneurship. It's just not building a tech company.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about vertical SaaS for a sec, and people building their own tools. I follow this guy Todd Saunders on Twitter, and his obsession is SMBs building their own products internally. And his take on it is these are the future software founders, product builders. And I have had an experience over the last few, I guess maybe 2 months or so, that matches with that. And I just want to describe that and then see if you're seeing something else. So my brother has a friend in the real estate industry. He's been a builder down in Florida. So, they put money together and they build a building and they sell it or rent it or whatever. That whole universe of how do you take a plot of land and then borrow money to build a building. Great. He comes to me about 2 months ago and he's like, I got an idea for a product. Who can I hire? Your brother told me that you have like developers overseas. And what I told him was, well, here's how you do it. Here's X, Y, and Z, but also get into one of these AI tools and start playing around, because if you could build it yourself, you're going to be a lot happier. Anyway, fast forward, this week I get in touch with him. My man vibe coded a legit product. And he was like, I can't believe this. I'm addicted. I cannot believe it works. I can't believe how good it is. And he showed me the product, and I was like, this is domain expertise.
Yes.
Expressed through software.
Yes. Yep.
And it matches directly with what this guy Todd does, who's like, look at this guy building a concrete company who built the perfect software for concrete companies that no one else can unless you have this incredible level of domain experience and pain and knowledge and all this other stuff. So I see like people building the vertical SaaS from the top down and offering it to an industry. And then, Brian, it sounds like what you're seeing is a lot of people who are going the other way. From, well, I'm so familiar with the problem, I just need help on figuring out how to build solutions for it.
We have heard, traditional SaaS founders and especially like tech strong SaaS companies say for the past 2 years, non-technical people can't build real products. Vibe coders can't build real products.
Yep.
These are toys. You can't build something real. You can't build something that can scale. You can't build, you hear this thing like, where are all the real businesses if all these Vibe coders are building something in a weekend? It's such bullshit. They're missing the point. The point is the folks who have the domain expertise and or access to a distribution channel, that both of those give you an unfair advantage. And the most important unfair advantage is you know the product really well, the market really well, you have a distribution channel, and most new SaaS founders don't have one or both of those things. And now the ability to spin up the product, I mean, whatever you think about vibe coding, it is absolutely possible to build something that's pretty damn close to get your first 100 paying customers, and now you've got a business that you can build on. But yeah, like the folks who come into it with a serious need or opportunity, you could play around in a weekend and make a toy. You can make a game. But if you are connected to an industry and you see a gap that is being underserved, and you could charge a lot of money for that problem to be solved, game on.
Very new approach to customer discovery. You don't need to launch and then learn.
And
you know exactly what
Jordan,
to build.
I speak to these people all the time. These are Builder Methods Pro members.
Yeah.
Literally, yesterday I had a call with a new member. He runs a dental practice in California. He just discovered Claude Code for the first time, and they're building a case management system to run their practice.
Yeah. Good luck selling him on a $25,000 a year piece of software that isn't quite as good.
Yeah.
Well, I think it kind of comes back to what are you buying? Like the real estate thing or the dental case thing. You're not. And I think about this like software and unfair advantages and entrepreneurship all the time. Like, what's your unfair advantage? Like, it's a typical VC conversation. But you're not really. You're kind of like buying this domain expertise in a box, like what you were saying before, right? You're not necessarily the software thing is like anybody can vibe code anything, and that's true. And even like something like a CRM, like it was kind of always true that like anybody could create a CRM, right? But like, why do you buy a certain one? Well, the vertical ones succeed because you're not really buying the CRM, you're buying the people who made it and their domain expertise
and their opinions about how that type of business should be run.
But I think it's like a really good time. I don't know if you call it vertical necessarily, but for opinionated points of view that are manifested in something of value that could be software, it could be courseware, it could be whatever.
And also what I find so interesting about this from a product design standpoint is just the idea of building internal tools. Because yes, that person who runs the real estate company, yes, they know that problem space really well, and maybe they're really connected in that industry, and they could potentially sell vibe code and build a product and turn it into a successful SaaS. That's one option. Mm-hmm. I think more likely, more common is every real estate company is just going to vibe code their own version for a customer base of one for themselves, right? And every single person, us included, everyone else, every SaaS that you buy off the shelf, there are paper cuts. There are, there are all these features that I don't want to even touch. It bloats the interface. Or, okay, they kind of do the thing that I need, but I wish it would just do this, but they're never going to design it the way that I want it because they've got 1,000 other customers. And lately, I'm designing my own tools for my own business in Builder Methods. Literally the last 2 weeks, I have built and shipped 4 new Rails applications. I have no intention to release them publicly. They are just for myself to use to run my content development pipeline. And I'm noticing the way that I go about designing these apps is so fundamentally different from how I would design and build a Clarity Flow or whatever SaaS tools I've ever worked on before that with the intention of selling to a market. My apps only need to work for me. I can make all these UI and UX and product decisions. It doesn't matter how complicated or confusing it might seem to the outside world. I get it, and it fits my process, and it fits my business goals, and it doesn't have to do everything else. It just has to do my business perfectly. And I believe that I'm not just doing that for fun. I'm doing that because it's becoming my competitive advantage. Like it's allowing me, and I'm describing myself, but really I think I'm describing every small business in the future. Like if you have this internal capability to design the perfect tools, the perfect interface, the perfect workflow, it's a competitive advantage. It lets you create more widgets faster. It helps you create more widgets that solve the problem better than, I mean, even better than buying a Basecamp, than buying an Asana, than buying a QuickBooks.
I'm putting a pretty big bet on the fact that the smallest, least technically sophisticated companies will still just prefer to be like, I can just give you $100 a month also, and you can do all this stuff for me. But the bar is pretty high on all the stuff that you do for them, and the flexibility required in your product needs to get it much closer to perfect software for them than they molding their process to you.
I think yes, to an extent, right? Like yes, maybe today that calculation is correct, right? Like it's just easier to pay $100 a month for QuickBooks or whatever it might be, right? But I do think that in the near future, and maybe today in some cases, it's not just a dollars trade-off. It's like ultimately it is, right? Like it's that much more of a competitive advantage to have a QuickBooks that works 100 times better for my business than QuickBooks itself.
But I think
so. Then it pays for either the operators to learn the skills or just to hire someone to come in and be the builder in their business.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, and we all live in our bubbles, and I live in my bubble too. But like the kind of behavior you're describing, though, is a very specific mindset, and it does, I think, it's not confined, but certainly today it's confined, I think, to like the small business assumption that you're making. Like when I talk to big companies, right? Yeah. They're like, it's the floor is littered with failures of vibe coded stuff that has caused there's an article in the Wall Street Journal today about, I put it in my newsletter too, about this vibe coded stuff there's another business that's coming to correct the vibe coding experiments. So along the way, we're learning this stuff, and yes, there's these pockets of things where I'm going to like spin up software for myself and use it. But at scale, at some of these larger organizations, I think that is a long way off. Like it's if you are a CIO and you're deciding how to invest in a specific outcome, like I think we're still far away from that CIO saying, you know what, I'm going to have developer A and B spin it up our own vibe coded version, and that's going to be our thing. Like I think we're, there's so many regulatory in fintech, in any of the, or in healthcare and insurance, like all these places where there's compliance and regulation and legal and all that stuff. The notion of 100, like just this home or in-house software factories, I don't know.
Yeah.
Certainly the case for small, like my business. Yeah, I'm gonna automate anything I can automate. But
I mean, we talked about like where are the opportunities? It does seem like there's still a huge opportunity in selling to enterprise. But then on the other end, you're almost like competing with the other end of the spectrum, right? Like Claude and OpenAI and Google are going into all these and saying like, how can we get you on a Claude everything plan to run your whole organization? Right. And they're just starting to eat up all these enterprise functions within
Well, again,
Claude's tooling itself, right?
Yeah, but talking about what we talked about before, like the Claudes and the Googles of the world are coming in and offering single player solutions, right? They're saying like, okay, here's your Gemini, and by the way, that Microsoft with the Copilot, there's all sorts of ways that's not working out, and that's a single player solution. The multiplayer stuff is really not going well. Like, you're going to replace, these 5 QA people with these 6 agents or something, like, or these customer service reps. There's all kinds of backlash around that. Not working because, and it's not like these agents can't do that job or the automation can't happen, but talking about what we talked about before, the coordination at scale is still a really hard problem. And I think at the larger company level, again, where there's compliance, regulatory issues, and all that kind of stuff, it gets really, really thorny fast. It's at odds with the mindset that we have of like finding pockets of things to automate and then automating them and moving on. Like that's not necessarily the mindset that's happening at these bigger firms, in my opinion.
Yeah. So how are we doing on time? I mean, should we wrap?
I think we got to wrap it up. Anyone have any fun Memorial Day weekend plans?
We're sending the kids off to Grandma's house, so Amy and I have a date weekend going on here.
Fantastic.
My kids just came home from college, so they're here, so we're all under one roof, which is always kind of nice.
So first year of college behind them.
Yes.
So they at this point know everything. You're a complete idiot. They have a far better understanding of the world than you do, and they just need your car for the
Unless I'm on a podcast, and then they need to come and bother me. Like they're literally asking for my wallet. That's what happened.
Straight wallet. I just get the Apple Cash requests.
I still get like the App Store. Can I download this game request? I still get a bunch of those for my 10 and 12-year-olds. So,
well, we have a soccer tournament, and the weather looks good. So we'll find ways to get out, go check out the beach, and to go to my kids' outdoor concert for the end of the year. They only have 2 weeks of school left.
Nice.
So, it's a great time of year. Get out, see everyone in the community.
Like, the empty nester thing, everybody's like, oh, you're going to have this awesome...
That's what I wanted to ask you about. I feel like that's a whole other podcast, but...
It's a whole other podcast, but I've missed like the kind of filled up weekends of fun stuff. Believe it or not, like at the time, it felt like a lot of it felt like a giant pain in the ass, but I miss it.
Yeah.
So enjoy it.
I believe that.
Even though they're at grandma's.
Yeah. I mean, we love it. Every weekend, like when they're here, we're going hiking. We're going out on stuff. So yeah, it's a good time.
That's good if you guys have that freedom. We feel like we don't have much freedom. I think that's for us. What happens on the weekends that feels a bit like a pain is, well, we've got a soccer game at 2, and then a cheerleading thing at 4, and then tomorrow morning we have another game at 8 a.m. So whatever plans you have to mold around that.
Right.
Yeah, we play basketball. My girls play basketball, and that sort of dominates that season. But they've stopped doing like the softball, and so like now like we don't. That you're right. Like having like games used to really dominate the weekends.
Yes. I do enjoy it though.
Yeah.
I love a sideline hang, and my dad lives nearby now, so it's me and my dad, which I'd never expected.
Yeah.
Would be our normal day to day, but we're sideline buddies and just watch all the games and cheer for the kids. It's awesome.
That's fun.
Yeah.
And try not to think about business the entire time.
That's right.
Yeah. And trying to think about work and try not to stress out and just be hey.
Until the other parent taps you on the shoulder and tells you their startup idea. And what do you think?
I don't know, maybe where you guys live, but it's not a lot of entrepreneurs around here.
No, neither.
And so most people are not thinking and talking about work. And
very few and far between. And whenever I'm talking to other people about my work, it's like I am an alien from another planet. Like
I try
not
to
just
bring
the text,
it down.
like literally just the fact that like I work at home, or I mean, a lot of people work from home these days.
Sure.
But the fact that I have a company with people and clients and customers that are worldwide, still now this year, people are like no way.
Yeah.
What a trip. Before any AI or agent stuff.
Yeah. I try to bring some of that interest into like, I don't know, pop culture or just the mainstream culture. So I might bring something up that's AI related, but it's interesting in general. I don't know, some new thing comes out, or I had a conversation recently about the Spencer Pratt ads. I don't know if you guys follow the Spencer Pratt Los Angeles mayor thing. Oh God, I'm too online. Jesus. Anyway, the LA mayor race
I'm
is
too deep into the Knicks right now, so
I mean the Knicks that's actually really fun. The
Dude,
basketball playoffs are amazing.
I've been looking at these tickets, and they're just going up in price by the minute around here, and I'm like, how do I get?
I thought
into
of you
that
recently
building?
when they had the insane comeback at like the end of regulation and then overtime. I was like, I was just happy for you.
I was
looking
at
experience it.
Literally for like the 6 hours before that game, I was like on StubHub. I'm like, what does it cost to get in that building? And I didn't pull the trigger.
You don't want to burn $1,200 on a few hours, but
to sit like
back,
in the rafters.
It was worth it. So I'll bring it into things like that. So this mayor race in LA, one of the people running, this guy Spencer Pratt, who's like used to be on a reality star show, but his house burned down. He's got the whole thing. Anyway, I don't even think it's him. I think people are just making AI videos, but it's very interesting to see its impact on politics when you can take a message that you want to deliver over a video and hit it with the exact precision, right? So one of the ads that he came out with was basically aimed directly at like the permission structure inside of a relatively left-wing culture in LA. And so to address that, he had like people at like the gym, like just finishing up a Pilates class. These two ladies were like, do you know who you're voting for? And they're both like, no. And then one says, well, I think I might actually vote for this guy, Spencer Pratt. And they're like, oh my God, I didn't think like anyone else, but I'm voting for him also. And then someone else walks in and is like, did you guys just say you're voting for Spencer Pratt? I thought we couldn't say that, but so am I. And it's like the exact precise message that you want to deliver. You can now create a video.
It's so powerful.
Exactly for that. It's not like, well, hopefully this lands properly and hopefully this person performs well on camera. And maybe we try to feed them what we want to say, but hopefully it gets the message across the way we want to. It's like, no, we're going to nail exactly what we want because it's relatively free to just create a new video with that message. So that's what I end up talking to people about. And they still think I'm an alien, but at least I'm not talking about like business and SaaS metrics and
right.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I avoid around here is like talking politics. So yeah. But
I still can't get over it. I grew up, in a household of nonstop politics, and I think it is insane for adults not to talk about politics. Like, guys, the things around us are happening.
I
we want to talk about it?
I honestly wish the stigma goes away. I feel like that's how you can calm the nerves a little bit. Is we just get talking again, But
as soon as you start talking about it, you moderate pretty quickly.
Yeah,
at least I do.
Realize like,
I'm
hey,
pretty hardcore.
People are pretty cool.
On my own. And then I start talking. I'm like, actually, I don't want to say that. Actually, I'll keep that thought to myself.
Yeah.
Well, I think also the dynamics are so much different when you're in person. I actually feel much more comfortable talking politics, like in person, like on the side of a rowing regatta or something like that, because like you're kind of face to face, and as long as it's not devolving into a personal attack, it's kind of doable. And it's again like how it's easy to yell at somebody inside your car at the other car on the highway, but like if you're actually standing next to each other, it's a little more difficult.
Yes,
totally
agree. All right, well let's go test out that theory on Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah,
that's right.
Henry, thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, guys.
Yeah,
cool.
It's a good one.
Appreciate it.
All right, talk soon.
See you.